With energy prices increasing massively in recent times, making a house more energy efficient is a priority for many homeowners. Tresidder is midway through work on his home in the Highlands.
It's a 1975 timber frame house and pretty typical for this part of the world. It's structurally a timber frame, that's what's holding up the roof, and it's rendered concrete blockwork externally and a ventilated cavity between those two. Having lived in this house and knowing its problems, I was curious about how good you could make it. We also wanted to have more space, and we've got 3 kids and it's a 3-bedroom house at the moment, so that was obviously going to get tight as the kids get older. The alternative would have been to sell the house and to build a new house, and we did consider that, but we really like the location. It's got a fantastic view, obviously, but it's also really nicely located in a way that would be very hard to find new build spots.
This building is being adapted and retrofitted. It's much more than just adding insulation. It's a holistic, well thought out approach. And fortunately, knows all the ins and outs.
I'm a Passivhaus designer, so my whole professional life is looking at ways to make buildings radically more energy efficient while being better in terms of comfort and in terms of health for occupants. And so living in a house that was expensive to heat and I knew wasn't the best in terms of health, it was difficult, and I wanted a nicer house to live in, but I also wanted a bit of a professional challenge, I suppose. All my work is very theoretical, it's very computer based, and I wanted something where I was actually doing the work myself, and I hadn't really done any DIY before this project, so it was a big learning curve just to learn how to do, normal DIY skills. So this was the kitchen. This part here was the kitchen, and the bit here where you are was the utility room, and we're pretty much going to keep it like that.
Existing buildings are commonly adapted by their owners, but all too often ventilation is neglected, moisture is not managed, and problems emerge.
When we stripped back the house, we discovered quite a lot of pretty badly done work. This bit here used to be a doorway, so at some point it was filled in before me. And then the way that a timber frame works is that you want to have a ventilated cavity between the blockwork and the timber frame. They just filled this with insulation flush with the blockwork. They didn't reinstate the ventilated cavity, so that got really, really damp, and there was lots of black mould and had plants growing in it and all sorts of things. It was pretty disgusting.
So what exactly is doing to his home, and how is it changing?
It's a 1.5-storey house, so that means that the eaves are at the top of the ground floor. Internally, on the first floor, you lose quite a lot of space. You have a section of room where you've got not very much headroom, so you lose a bit of amenity there. And so we're actually taking the first floor off and taking the roof off and then rebuilding it as a 1.75-storey house. And that means that internally, on the first floor, we'll use the full footprint of the house. And that gains us enough space to split one of the children's bedrooms into 2. The other children's bedroom gets bigger. The main bedroom gets enough space that it can be bigger and have a corner office and an ensuite shower. And the bathroom gets bigger. So we gain a load of space. And we also get the view to the southeast, which is a fantastic view. And at the moment, the 2 bedrooms on either side of the house don't really have a view at all. One of them looks onto a tree right next to the house, and the other one looks onto the neighbour's wall. So this is the living room, and we've got 2 big changes we're making here. When you're sat in a sofa over at the other side of the room, the view of Ben Nevis is split by this mullion, which always seems a shame to me, so we're going to replace it with a single piece of glass. Make it a bit higher off the ground to reduce solar gains in the summer, to reduce the overheating problem, because this room already overheats a bit on sunny days. So that will help a little bit with that. We're also going to be putting another window in over there, where you can see there was a window before. I don't know why they took it out. We're going to be putting an opening window in there, so that'll even the light out a bit in the room nicely, and will enable us to cool the room when it gets too hot, because with this sliding door, we found that you didn't really want to leave a whole sliding door open, so it would just get really hot in here in summer some days.
the house will be approached in 2 stages. On the ground floor it's a retrofit, while on the first floor it's a new build. Taking the roof off the house and rebuilding is major work, but they did look at the alternatives.
So we looked at extending the house rather than extending upwards, and that didn't work very well with the site. It was difficult to find a way that we could extend it, and it didn't really work in terms of the layout of the house either. So that's kind of how we ended up at this solution. We also looked at, so you can see we've got dormers on each side. We also looked at making those full width dormers in order to get the extra room that we wanted, and the structural engineer didn't like that. So that's how we came to this solution that we're doing.
Dealing with the ground floor retrofit, they were constrained by the existing wall build-up. Normally, it's a simpler and safer approach to insulate externally. Here, with a ventilated cavity between the blockwork and the timber frame, it was just not possible. So an internal wall insulation strategy was required.
These are 100mm deep studs, and previously there was just about 10 or 15mm of glass wool insulation in there, and you saw it had loads of mould in it because the air is leaking into the structure and condensing and causing dampness and mould. So we're fully filling them with 100mm bats of, this is hemp and jute insulation. So fully filling it helps with the mould because there's less air in there, and mould likes to have a bit of air. And the hemp and jute is hygroscopic, so any moisture that does form can dissipate throughout the hemp and jute, whereas something like glass wool isn't able to dissipate moisture in that way. And then we're going to have another 40mm of wood fibre board inside that, and then an intelligent air tightness membrane Intello. Most of the time that acts as a vapour barrier, so it stops moisture from the room getting into the wall build-up. But in very sunny weather you can get something called reverse diffusion, where the sun is shining on the wall outside and it drives moisture from the outside of the wall through to the inside. And because I've not been in control about what the sheathing board was on the outside, because that's pre-existing, I want the wall to be able to dry out in both directions. So I'm trying to make a wall that is very moisture robust. So I'm using hygroscopic and vapor open insulation, and then I'm using a vapor barrier that is variable so that it can dry out in both directions.
Retrofitting buildings is complicated, and the right expertise is essential.
There's been several instances where I've uncovered something that was a bit different from what we thought we were going to find, and then I've had to work out how to do it in a way that won't result in problems further down the line, and usually those problems are moisture problems. And the thing with retrofitting houses is that it's seen as a DIY project, and people just think, oh, I'll do that, that's fine. And I imagine, I'm sure there are lots of really badly done DIY insulation projects, and that are resulting in mould and damp problems. And that it doesn't have to be like that, because a DIY person can have a much higher attention to detail than you would typically get in paying a builder to do it. But you need to have that level of knowledge to know what is likely to cause a problem and to know how to address it.
So what advice does Ez have for others looking to upgrade their homes for health, comfort and energy efficiency?
If you're doing a project like this and you don't have that expertise, either do a lot of work yourself to try and get that expertise, or look for someone who is Passivhaus certified and has done the AECB retrofit course, or potentially the retrofit coordinator course, who understands the risks of retrofitting a building, and get them to help you in terms of designing what you're going to do. Because the sort of improvements that you're making thermally, if you do them right, they can make your house much healthier. If you do them wrong, they can make your house much less healthy than even less healthy than it was before.
While it's been a DIY job so far, the next step will be handing over to a builder for the big structural changes. The project is aiming for the Passivhaus retrofit standard called EnerPHit. And once completed, this will come with many benefits. So what's Ez looking forward to most?
a place that's comfortable to be in year round, so warm enough in winter and cool enough in summer to be comfortable in there all the time, without having to worry about how much fuel you're using. Somewhere where it's really easy to dry stuff. We do a lot of outdoor sports and the weather's not always like this, obviously, so we've got a lot of wet kit all of the time, and that's a pain. So I'm looking forward to having MVHR and being able to dry stuff really easily all year round.
And it's not just Passivhaus benefits. Remodelling your home is to suit your needs.
I'm looking forward to having a view to the hills from our bedroom and having a nice place to work. I'm looking forward to the kids having a bedroom each, and at the moment we're living in a small cabin, so I'm looking forward to having actually some space to live in.